This Q&A with Brandon Fugal and Leslie Kean was presented in April 2023 in New York City at an inquiry into anomalous experiences and the phenomenon. This conference series gives an opportunity for the in-person and online audience to interact with featured speakers who are truly making a difference in these fields. If you like this video, you can subscribe to this channel for more great content in the days ahead. And now, we bring you Leslie Kean and Brandon Fugal.
In a moment, you guys are going to get to meet Brandon Fugal, who is the current owner of Skinwalker Ranch. I think most of you know that. And the History Channel's been covering what's been going on there. They have a new season just about to come up. We're going to show you a trailer for what's about to come up on season 4. And I can tell you, I've watched the first episode of it, and it's really fascinating. But I just found this incredible quote, Brandon, by you in this book, which probably many people have read. I just wanted to read it because it kind of sets a really great tone for this. Hold on a second. So this is something Brandon said, which is in this book. He says, "I am not a believer. I am an experiencer. I know for a fact that it is real and have witnessed with my own eyes, with other credible witnesses at my side, what can only be described as daylight sightings of exotic craft over Skinwalker Ranch." And I think he's witnessed even more than that. So let's look at the trailer, and then we'll bring up Brandon, and we'll get to ask him a bunch of questions.
I continue to be shocked by the UAP activity on Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm not sure that we've seen this type of phenomenon.
The coyotes didn't kill this animal.
We should be digging, drilling right there.
The closer that we are getting to the answers, the more covert military activity becomes.
There is, right there. There's a thing hovering over the launch site. We're maybe looking at the anomaly for the first time.
The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Tuesday, April 18th at 10, only on the History Channel.
I'm so happy to have the privilege of talking to you, Brandon.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Appreciated your work over the last
years,
groundbreaking in bringing out really the reality of what people have experienced, pilots, government officials, professionals, and I think that we're just getting warmed up.
Well, I think we're here to really talk about what you've been doing and your team has been doing, and for years, at this amazing place, which has this incredible history. And I actually, in some of the information that I received about the show, there was this line that really intrigued me, that you said that this is the greatest scientific investigation of this generation. So, maybe, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people know about it, but maybe you could just tell us why, what is it about this investigation that's so special?
It's a bold statement, and I've taken a lot of hate on Twitter,
oh, no.
which is the bathroom wall of the internet. But love the haters. Bring it on. I truly believe it is the greatest science project of our time and endeavor. It is true frontier science and research delving into really the reality of the phenomena. And for whatever reason, it seems to be converging at this very unique location in northeastern Utah that has a rich history. 512-acre piece of property that is surrounded by tribal lands that has been really the subject of intense scientific investigation for now going on 27 years. And I've owned it for 7 years. In fact, closed on the purchase of it a week ago, 7 years ago, with Mr. Bigelow, and count him as a friend. It was an interesting process going through all of that. I actually acquired it as a skeptic, as someone who'd never seen a UFO, a ghost, an orb, or anything of the sort. In fact, I had just been coming out of a faith crisis matched with deep skepticism of anything in the paranormal. I had funded research into everything from gravitational physics to over unity energy, and had found that the majority of claims, if not all of them, at least I believed at the time, had a natural explanation, and that there really wasn't anything that extraordinary going on. And I told Mr. Bigelow that when I acquired the property. I said, just in full disclosure, I'm going to bring in my own team of scientists, and I fully intend to debunk all of the claims that have been made for so long. I believe that there is most likely a natural prosaic explanation for all that has occurred there. I mean, the human mind is a very powerful thing. And, the groupthink, you get groups of people together that have their own biases that desperately want to believe. And it's very easy to get swept up in a zealous movement. You see it with religion. You see it with all sorts of different portions of society and belief systems. And I didn't think that this was any different. And so that's really how I entered the property, was as a skeptic that was willing to put his money where his mouth was. But I didn't want my identity ever revealed. I never wanted my name associated with these topics or the ranch. So I set up shell corporations and made everyone sign confidentiality agreements. I wanted absolutely no notoriety because I didn't want the topics associated with the ranch to in any way undermine my professional endeavors that still to this day drive 95% of my time and energy. And I ultimately, of course, changed my mind. And History Channel and their top production team essentially Jedi mind tricked me into coming out, and that's why we're here. I guess it has been an incredible journey, and I want to answer any question you have. But it's a privilege to be with all of you. I know you could be a lot of other places right now, but I think these topics are timely. I think it's time for people to open their eyes. A lot of the questions that were brought up on the earlier panel with James Fox, I think are interesting and well worth expounding on. I think that up until this point in time, a lot of people haven't wanted to know the truth. I mean, they want to, but they really don't. It's like The Matrix. Yeah, you've probably all seen the show The Matrix. I found that a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people, would just as soon be plugged right back into the Matrix because they can't handle the truth. Can you all handle the truth? Okay. All right. After season 4, some of you may need therapy, and I'm sorry. I'm serious. It's going to really people up. Shoot. This is like, I'm okay to say that. It's been a long week.
Yeah, that's the best plug you can give for season 4.
I can't wait. I really can't wait. And I can't wait for the skeptics to see what we have to unveil. I've just been like a caged animal.
You have to get them to watch it. That's the problem.
To bite my tongue so much online because I'm like, gosh, if you people only knew. But it's anyway. So fire away, Leslie.
Tell us a little more. So you start out as a skeptic. So tell us where you've landed 7 years later. What is how would you describe what you know now about this thing we call the phenomenon? What have you learned up in these 7 years?
Well, I can honestly say I've spent more money than any private individual on the planet in the last decade relative to investigating the phenomena. That is for sure. And that's no disrespect to my predecessors, to Mr. Bigelow and others. But I have literally, before even the History Channel series and the docu-series effort was allowed within the gates, millions of dollars spent in pursuit of the truth and documenting the reality of the phenomena and trying to understand really the origin and the agenda associated with what we are experiencing. And I've come a long ways. I obviously have gone from being a skeptic. People ask me all the time, are you a believer? And as your quote from the book essentially stated, no, I tell people I'm not a believer, I'm an experiencer. And I can't unsee those things that I have witnessed with others standing at my side. And I think when you combine electromagnetic anomalies coupled with acute medical episodes and UFO sightings all happening simultaneously within the same space on the same afternoon, it is absolute ignorance to deny the reality of the phenomenon. and the fact that we are not alone, and there is something much more complex happening. We are, without question, living in a I think a very interesting place here on Earth.
Yeah. Can you describe maybe some of the more interesting personal experiences that you've had, that you yourself have
I mean, the most compelling, the most profound experience was that one that I had on October 14th, 2016, that changed my entire worldview, and it shifted my entire perspective. And from that point on, I doubled down not only with financial investment, but also with this being very personal. On that day, I saw, with witnesses at my side who had professed their own skepticism earlier in the day, we saw what can only be described as a flying saucer, as this disc-like craft that was hovering right above the Mesa Plateau, right in front of us in broad daylight. And this was not just some blinky, blurry light in the sky or anything like that. It was an object about 40 to 50 feet long that appeared and changed position instantaneously. I mean, within seconds, it could change in the blink of an eye from one position to another, roughly 50 feet, then drop down and then dart to the side again. And then within about 20 seconds, the entire event was over and it was gone. And it was like a bullet shooting off in the distance. And we were all left very stunned, sitting there. And the shocking thing was really the fact that all of our smartphones had been drained from about 80% to zero before that. And those smartphones, in fact, my physicist, Eric Bard, who resides full-time at the ranch, he's there right now in the command center. He sleeps there. He hasn't left the ranch really in a year and a half. Before then, he spent more time on that property, and frankly, more time than any other scientist studying the phenomena as far as intense focus than anyone. But he had his smartphone that was his iPhone was malfunctioning earlier in the day, and we were fortunate to have him at least have the presence of mind to capture that. I mean, his iPhone was changing to purple, magenta color, and we thought that was strange, and we didn't know what would cause that. And then, of course, later, everyone felt a sense of vertigo as they were over in Homestead 2 area. And even my brother Cameron, who is the pilot, didn't feel comfortable sticking around, wanted to go back to the airport and wait until we summoned him to depart later in the afternoon. But and then later, we had an individual who was rendered catatonic, who was there as attending security for a visiting dignitary, and that started really raising eyebrows. I mean, the smartphone malfunctions, the experiences, what people were feeling, and then seeing this huge 6'6" figure who claimed that he could bench press 700 pounds, literally rendered catatonic for a period of 10 minutes. And then following that, we have this, what could only be described as a UFO sighting. That changed everything. And from that point on, we fully instrumented the property. We added all of the scientific platforms. We now have approximately 50 surveillance cameras, night vision, thermographic imaging. I mean, the most advanced FLIR camera systems. We even have infrasonic sensor systems, our own weather station, avionics, receiving platforms, and tracking to hopefully be able to differentiate from that which is conventional to that which may have some other origin or may be unusual. And we brought all of those things to bear in order to document the reality of what is happening in this really interesting place.
One more question, then you can go to the audience. But so I don't know how much you can say about, at this point, what you understand the nature of this phenomenon to be, because I wonder about the fear factor. I mean, obviously there's a sort of malevolence about it, or there's something sort of negative about it. And you guys are out there in the field, testing that and taking risks. And does it feel like it's something kind of dark and scary, or does it feel like there's other elements to it that aren't that way? I mean, how do you relate to it?
Yeah, I liken the phenomena to really any neighborhood in the United States or anywhere in the world. You're going to have bad actors. You're going to have You're going to have malevolent people, good people, people that are somewhere in between. I don't think the universe is any different. I think the universe is just one huge, vast neighborhood, and I don't think that what we are experiencing is anything different. I think we have data showing that there is malevolence involved, that there is intent to harm. There's also benevolence. People have had beautiful experiences, positive experiences, believe it or not, and then others have found it to be more benign. And I think what we're seeing is a diversity. People ask me all the time, as you can imagine, is it extraterrestrial? Are we seeing visitors from other worlds, or is it interdimensional? Does this fit within Jacques Vallée's, IDH, interdimensional hypothesis, or is it angels and demons? Is it spiritual or related to consciousness? And I think the answer, based on the data, is that it is all of the above, and that there's a diversity. I don't think that there is any one point of origin or agenda. I think that there are countless different entities that we are dealing with, not only at Skinwalker Ranch, but here on this planet. And I don't think Bob Bigelow is far off as far as making the statement that they're among us, that if we only knew, we'd be very surprised. We've probably been visited since the beginning of time.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think as you look at the Webb telescope and the insight rendering images from the universe and how many exoplanets continue to be discovered and how much our own history continues to be rewritten. I mean, archaeology, how many times is National Geographic going to have to reset the clock as far as when human habitation or, when people were using skills or tools or implements? My heavens. We're seeing an evolutionary process right now as far as understanding our own place on this planet and the universe, and I think we are just in our infancy. And Skinwalker Ranch, to a degree, is an active living laboratory for hopefully discovering not only the nature of what we're dealing with, but really our place in the universe. And people have probably seen me pontificate on this, but answer the age-old questions of where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? Are we alone? Is there something more to life? I don't think that it's a coincidence that Bigelow is now funding, life after death research and consciousness studies, because that ends up being an outgrowth to a degree of a lot of these things.
Do you feel you have discovered what it is about this specific location? Like I know you talk about there's like a vortex there.
I have no idea.
What is it about that draws it there?
It is centered. Well, one thing that we found that was very interesting: the Uinta Basin is truly a bowl. It is a basin, and this property, for whatever reason, whether this is one of the reason for the phenomena being focused on this area, but it is right in the dead center. And you can pull up any Google Earth or topographical map, and you're going to see this. There is something strange about the mesa. And again, I thought that we probably wouldn't find anything, and as we have explored that region, we're seeing some anomalous things. And there seems to be something both below the ranch and above that ranch that is meddling with some of the most advanced instrumentation on the planet. To have GPS systems employed using helicopters, airplanes, balloons, instrumented rocketry, all malfunctioning above this property repeatedly. It's pointing us in a direction, and then you see that there are things that are signaling something below the property that may be embedded. There's an old Masonic symbol that I found etched in the Mesa plateau, the face, when I first toured the property, that was shown to me by the former security officer. And many people identify that it's basically symbolizing as above, so below. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was, well, yet another really intriguing part of the lore. It is very old. The patina, the age and the patina on this drawing, it's very old. And it's at least from sometime in the 1800s, but it is definitely not contemporary. And boy, has that held true as far as, seeing that there really is something going on above and below that property that is not only getting our interest, but also capturing the interest of other enterprises that are disturbing. I mean, if any of you've seen the trailers recently that we've been dropping, Black Hawk helicopters showing up at 11 o'clock at night in the midst of experiments that are not transponding, that are unmarked. Army Special Ops Chinook helicopters, also unmarked, not transponding, that show up in the midst of experiments and are sweeping the property. I have resources, but I don't have those kind of resources. I can't just snap my finger and summon $100 million or more of military assets to come just show up at the property simultaneous with experiments. Something is going on. And we are definitely poking the hornet's nest, and I think it underscores the importance of our investigation.